Mena. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is the very first video that you're seeing of me, then welcome to my channel. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below if you didn't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes. And today in this video, I thought I'd talk about my top 5 things that I am not perfect at. So here are things that I've been doing for so long, and there are times where I can get it right, but sometimes I can't always get them right. And I'm not always as perfect at them as I'd like to be, but it's okay. It takes practice, and the more you practice, the better you're gonna get. So I'm gonna get started, and these are things that are personally things that I'm personally not good at myself. Or should I say probably not perfect at myself, wrong term. And I am trying my best, and I know the more I practice, I'll get better and better each day. And we all have things we're not very good at, but we know we'll get better the more we practice. So I'm gonna get started, and I hope you guys like this video. So number 1 on my list would have to be knitting. Yes, so I've been knitting since I was 13 years old. Some of my stuff still ends up kind of wonky, even if it's my first time doing a certain project, or if I make a mistake or not cast on as many stitches as I need to. It happens, and sometimes I have moments where I have to rip back, or sometimes things curl because of my tension, or maybe I forget to add on an extra stitch. But we all make mistakes, and I have had moments where I've forgotten to check my gauge and something hasn't fit somebody. It's just I'm still doing my best to work really hard. I have a few things that I'm good at with knitting, but I still have some things I'm kind of working on, learning how to check my gauge, learning how to do the math, as well as controlling my tension. When it comes to knitting, those are the 3 things I still can't do very well when it comes to knitting. But other than that, I'm still able to make my pieces try to look much better and everything. But I still have those 3 things that I'm still working on, and I know I'll get better at time the more that I do my research and practice. Number two on my list would have to be YouTube. So YouTube is one thing I'm still not perfect at, even though I've been doing YouTube for quite a long time. I still have my moments where I make mistakes, I'll forget to add certain clips in videos, and I will upload them anyway. Or sometimes I will forget to edit my videos, and I'm not the best when it comes to editing my videos. I'm still in the learning process of how to work an editing system, because when I first started YouTube, I had no idea how to get an editing system. I didn't have an editing system, so I didn't know how to use an editing system properly. And it took me quite a long time. The first time I ever had an editing system was when I got my Samsung phone, and I learned how to do editing with my videos through my Samsung phone. And now that I have a new phone like my iPhone, I'm trying my best to get better at learning how to edit stuff on my iPhone. And I have gotten better with my editing skills a little bit. There's just some teensy things that I still need to work on. But it happens. I mean, when you're new to YouTube, when you first start YouTube, you don't really know how to edit your videos properly, but when you practice and get better, it just takes some time. Number 3 on my list has to be crocheting. Yes, I'm still not the best at crocheting. My edges end up like a trapezoid still, because I'm not very good at controlling my tension, and also that was because I forgot to make a chain to put my hook up in position, and I still don't know where to put my hook. I still don't know how to count my first chain as a stitch. So that's the one thing that really confuses me when it comes to crocheting, is when to count the first chain as a stitch. And also my circles will end up a tiny baby hat instead of like a flat coaster like I want them to be. And back then also, I didn't know how to read patterns. Like when I first learned how to crochet, I did not know how to read any patterns at all. Like I didn't know how to put things in, where to put the hook. I didn't know how to increase properly. I didn't know how to decrease properly. And I'm still not the best at like controlling my tension when it comes to crochet, because my pieces will end up like very crooked, because either I'll forget to count my first chain as a stitch or put my hook in the first chain of my, and the first stitch of my crocheting. Does that make sense? Let me know. No, so that's the part that confuses me, is when to count my first chain as a stitch and when not to count my first chain as a stitch. Number 4 on my list would have to be cooking. So cooking is one thing I'm not perfect at. I haven't been perfect at it since I first started cooking. I'm like the slowest cooker ever. It takes me almost an hour to put food together. Even if it's supposed to be a half-hour recipe, I make it take for like an hour, because I'm constantly reading over and over again how to cook, when to put the food in the oven, what temperature to put the food in the oven, and even it takes me a really long time to prep the food, because I have a bad habit of being quite a perfectionist when it comes to putting my food together. It's really annoying, especially if I'm doing the Green Chef meals. I mean, I don't mind cooking for people, but the problem is it takes me that long to cook a recipe when a recipe is only supposed to take a half an hour or 20 minutes, and it takes me almost an hour, which I think is kind of ridiculous. But then again, I'm still working on my cooking skills. Number 5 on my list would have to be following a recipe. I can't really follow a recipe too well, because sometimes I'll accidentally read so fast that I skip certain ingredients or skip certain steps, and then I have to read over and over before I start doing certain things, like whether it's making a dinner or cooking something I've never cooked before. And it takes me quite some time to actually double check the recipe, because I have to check it like twice to make sure I'm not missing anything or skipping a step. Sometimes I will accidentally skip certain steps, only just because I accidentally will go too fast and not read the entire recipe itself. But then again, I should probably like know how to follow recipes, because I'm old enough to like cook, but it's just like following a recipe is just so difficult for me, because I have a bad habit of taking so long to cook, because I have to make sure I'm reading the recipe correctly and I'm following each step perfectly. And that's why it takes me so long, because I have a tendency to check the recipe over and over and over and over again until I understand it. And that's why it takes me forever to cook. And I feel bad because I keep everybody waiting, but everybody understands why it takes me that long to cook a recipe, because they know I have a tendency to look over a recipe over and over again to make sure I'm understanding it. And I'm still, and like I said, I still am not perfect when it comes to cooking, but I am trying my best. Okay, so those are my top 5 things I'm not perfect at. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post every day except for Tuesday and Friday afternoon sometimes, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye.